Welcome to the Real Advisor Podcast. TRAP, Trap. Please follow us and join in the conversation on Twitter @Advisor Podcast, where you can suggest ideas and themes you'd like the Trap team to discuss. Also remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave a 6 out of 5-star review on iTunes. Doing all this really helps us, which means we can do more to help you. Now let's head over to the studio for the latest pile of Trap.
Yes, indeed, dear Trappists. Welcome back to the latest pile of Trap. My name is Nick Lincoln, and joining me in the studio of doom as ever are the three other horsemen of the apocalypse, the Trap Pack, Carl Widger, Alan Smith, Hello. And Andy Hart. Now, gentlemen, we have a show full of absolutely nothing, so let's start unpacking it immediately. We had a Trap Summit last week in London at a gastropub on the edge of Regent's Park. The four of us and about 8 other people, 12 people from the financial services profession. It was a very good day. Lots of very good CPD material, very constructive. I came out of it. I felt a better rounded person. Carl, what were your views on our day in North London?
I definitely came out of it a more rounded person, that's for sure. And I have to apologise that I left all my Trap swag in Alan Smith's apartment. That's all I have to say about that event.
Mr. Smith, your microphone is muted, fella.
I'm dealing with amateurs here. You're talking to mute everything. Thank you very much, Nick Dick. I'm festooned in Trap swag. I've got more hats than
dripping in Trap
than a hat shop. Yeah. This one. Not to forget this that we discussed last time. I don't know what it is.
Your one looks all right. Sorry, again for the listener, we're
oh yeah,
this is great audio stuff. We're showing the fantastically high quality plaques that I got for the Trap Pack, which have got me nothing but grief. As have the baseball caps. I've also got them.
The mug's good though. To be fair,
the mug's nice. The mug's.
Should have a competition for the Trappist listeners. You can win your own Trap mug or hat. Actually, the hats.
They can choose. They can choose.
Yeah,
we're trying to gain listeners, Alan.
Have it all. Yeah.
So the World Cup is progressing on, and England have beaten Senegal, haven't they? So they're facing. This is where the depth of my knowledge runs out. They're facing France or Holland next week.
France
on Saturday night, I believe.
France tomorrow night. Yeah, tomorrow night, France.
England playing France tomorrow.
By the time this goes out,
this show goes out on Friday, Nick.
Thank you, Andy. That was a completely useless interjection, which didn't help anybody. So let's crack on. Topical stuff. A point you made last week, Andy. Last episode, you made another point. This interjection, which caused quite a bit of grief back behind the scenes. Do you want to talk about DIY investors?
Yes. So following on from a presenter at my conference, where he said on stage in front of 300 financial advisors that on average DIY clients end up with better investment returns than advised clients, and this is something that I've always thought to be the case. So I thought I'd just unpack it a little bit now just to sort of clarify it. So there's DIY investors, people that just go onto an investment platform and just pick some random funds. There's advised clients that get a financial advisor in their life and build them a portfolio. And then I'd say there's a third option, behavioral financial advice clients, the clients of our firms that get told the truth about money, which is slightly different. So I'll just unpack the first one. So the DIY investor, it's usually smaller accounts, usually younger people. They're just getting started out. They don't really have any expensive money questions. And they literally just throw some darts at the board that's got some various investment funds, usually equity funds, even individual shares. So the portfolios are not very appropriate, let's say. But anyway, they do okay over time just because they've thrown some darts at some equity funds and then just hopefully have stuck to it, which is the challenge. And then there's the advised client that goes to see a financial advisor, a very qualified financial advisor, gets the individual to fill in a misconception mirror that Nick calls a mumbo-jumbo questionnaire, and they end up with a portfolio of a multi-asset mess. Multi-asset's easy to sell because it's, portrayed as it being well-diversified. It is well-diversified, but it's in the wrong assets, so it's almost a non-starter from my world. So they end up with a portfolio that's, got a shed load of bonds, fixed income in it. So long-term, it's arguable that the DIY investor will beat that portfolio from a purely investing point of view. The third option is going to see someone like ourselves, the firms that we run, predominantly behavioral, global equity firms, where the financial advisor is focused on obviously building the financial plan, ensuring that the client doesn't make any mistakes. We're in their corner. When they become a client of ours, we say you're never going to make another financial mistake again. We build a portfolio that's predominantly got global equities in it, which we know is the real wealth creation engine long term. And we try and create a portfolio that the clients got the maximum exposure to global equities that they can stick with in terms of the volatility, and the fluctuation in price. And that's the third option. And as I say, the best portfolio the client has is the one that they stick to. And this can change. I've got clients now that are 90%, 100% global equities. But when I first took them on many moons ago, they were 50% global equities, 60% global equities. And then they become calmer as they're stuck with that portfolio, not made the mistakes along the way. And then we nudged them up over time because that's where we know the returns come from. So there's three options. There's the DIY client, slightly younger, throw some darts at the board. There's the advised client that gets a multi-asset portfolio because that's the correct thing to do according to the current, financial and investing dogma. And then there's the third option, clients of our firms and many other firms out there that are sort of tried to unpack where the real returns come from. And that's it, really. So I just thought I'd unpack that. Over to you, Cole.
Yeah, so I'll be bold enough to say that I was the one that threw the toys out of the pram a small bit over that last comment, and then we had a big argument in Trap. But look, that's the beauty, I suppose, of this foursome in that, we do push back on each other sometimes. Just to pick up on one or two things that you said there. Look, I thanks for the clarification, first of all. I'm not sure you're being entirely fair, though, here. And I think saying that a multi-asset, an advised client who goes into a multi-asset fund, typically the multi-asset funds are equities and bonds.
No, they're not.
I think
they're full up with loads of other stuff, private equity, commodities, loads of stuff.
Well, the multi-asset funds that I've seen, right, that's I suppose, inverted commas, diversified investing, where you've got like private equity, but I haven't seen private equity in many multi-asset funds. But anyway,
there's loads of stuff that turns up in them.
Okay, well, just bear with me, Andy, if you don't mind, and let me make the point. I think the difficulty arises where people add complexity. So that's adding the likes of commodities and private equity. I don't think they're fit for purpose for the average investor. And I think most of the difficulty, in fact, arises when financial advisors start making changes to portfolios along the way in reaction to what might be happening in markets. And we all know that the best solutions and outcomes for our clients are to invest in something that's fit for purpose at the outset and just keep the client in their seat then going forward. So my understanding certainly of multi-asset here in Ireland would be the vast majority of the multi-asset funds have equities and bonds. Yes, some of them may have absolute return funds, which are absolutely nuts. Some have property, which I don't think is fit for purpose in a diversified portfolio. And that equally increased costs. That's not required. So I just think, investing in equities and bonds that's appropriate for your client.
Totally.
Vast majority of it in equities, that's where the solution is going to be had.
Totally.
And look, I appreciate the clarification, but that's where I sit.
And just a final point on that, you diversify within the right asset class. So you have thousands of companies in the global equity element, and you have thousands of companies in the bond element. Yeah, a split between global equities and global bonds, well diversified. That's a great portfolio. But all the other
dimensional world allocation funds does exactly
which is many funds. But there are multi-asset funds that have 8 different asset classes in them and a whole load of mess that I don't want my clients getting anywhere near. But the split between equities and bonds, big fan.
I think you're both right in this. I have come across, I agree with you, Carl, a diversified portfolio should, there are simple asset classes that we should all, be aware of and use from time to time. And I do know what it is. There's a love of complexity. When we come across clients, and I don't want to be too sort of direct or opinionated too much early on in this conversation, particularly they come from the world of the discretionary portfolio manager, fund manager, whatever you want to call them. And there seems to
You
be...
don't know the power of the dark side.
Right, most of these people, from the ones I've met, are very, nice, honourable, intelligent, well-intentioned, but they have a love of complexity.
Bullshit.
And so we pick up clients from them from time to time, and you're right, Andy. It's like, could we just make? There's funds you've never heard of. There's funds, we do a bit of an X-ray, a deep dive analysis, and there's funds you can't find anywhere. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
The kind of offshore. Lock up things, complex hedge funds, structured notes, you name it. And gee whiz, complexity. I don't even know what asset class some of these things are in, but it maybe tells the clients and the customers, we know this stuff, we've got access to this stuff, and you haven't. So that would have an impact, I would think, on investment returns over the long term. And one just a little, as we're still in the kind of topical stuff right now, I just want to bring something right up to date, which I thought was relevant to this conversation somewhat. Which there was an article, I just posted something on Twitter yesterday, the weekend. There was an article, a financial journalist who writes for the Times posted something about her own personal saving for retirement journey. How difficult it was for her to accumulate the amount of. There's a number of online tools you can find to work out how much you need to save every week, or every month, every year. And one of the big things that she was saying is, I think I'm going to move from the default balanced portfolio, I think 50-50 equities, bonds, to the adventurous, even these naming protocols, adventurous. It sounds a bit dodgy, a bit. And I think, I can't remember if she actually said how old she was, but she did refer to something like a 30-year time horizon before she even starts to retire, if she retires on time. And obviously then, all being well, health allowing, she'll be retired for decades after that. To be 50-50 equities, bonds, when you are, let's say, 30 years old, geez, it's nuts, isn't it, guys? I know that we may be a bit too overly positive about global equities, but that is going to, for big company pension schemes to have a default for all their staff, regardless, until they go into the kind of what do you call it, the lifestyling,
lifestyle, even more dangerous,
even worse,
more dangerous.
But to put younger people into load of bonds just seems just irresponsible.
Well, the government, I think it's the government's scheme. I mean, I don't get involved in auto enrollment, but Nest, certainly one of the big ones, I think maybe they all do it, they have to do it. They were told to put people joining the schemes who are sort of 18, 19, 20, put a significant amount of their funds into bonds, because you don't want these people upset when they look at their valuations and see them decline in the early years. I mean, talk about pandering and reinforcing really bad practices rather than educating these people and saying, just don't look at the valuation for the next 20 years. We make it, the state makes it worse and says, no, young people who are the ones who can afford to ride out all this volatility and should be loving it, they are told, without knowing, because most of them won't even know what they're investing in, they go into something that won't cause them offense if they see it drops. And it's like, wow, you see how big the problem is, Andy.
But weirdly, I'm quite a fan of that. That's a behavioural intervention that the government's taken a view on, because they didn't want a 19-year-old to join and invest, let's say, £1,000 over a year, and then look at their statement within the first year and it's say $850, because then they think, "Oh, bugger this! I'm just going to stop doing the whole thing." So I'm a bit of a fan of that.
It hasn't worked this year, then, has it? Investing in bonds.
Again, it hasn't worked.
No, I get it. But I understand why they intervened with that. That was quite smart from their point of view, which is quite rare for a committee to come up with such a wide-ranging rule. I was a fan of that. Yeah, I think one should be
maybe. I mean, that's, you're talking about auto enrollment, big. But I mean,
yes,
surely
exactly
there's a responsibility amongst. I mean, I don't think any of us are particularly big we're certainly not in corporate benefits, company pension schemes, and so on. But surely there is a big role for education for employers,
of course,
setting up these company pension schemes, and rather than just say, because that is pandering, isn't it? We're going to give you a suboptimal outcome just in case you get worried about it. Why don't we educate you? Why don't
just
we
so
teach you that there is nothing to worry about? And you can't touch this for decades anyway. You can't get it out once in a pension scheme until you're 57.
And also,
we don't want them to stop paying.
making the employer the de facto parents of all these people all the time, and that's another burden. Mate, why don't kids come out of school knowing a little bit about finance and just a little bit about how these things work? Why
That's
is
a
it the
whole,
burden of the
whole different subject.
It is a whole different subject, but the government's just putting a band-aid on a massive wound by saying, "Now we'll put you in a rubbish fund that will lose money in real terms after inflation, just so you don't wet the bed," and that's okay. No, it's not okay. It's not good enough. All right, have we done this one into the ground?
Yep. Move on.
Okay, cool. Andy, you spoke at length there, but you're going to speak at length again, sir, because on our agenda of dreams, you've got a point in there, my friend. So the floor is once again yours. And then who are you going to hand over to once you've given us your superb monologue?
I'll just speak quite quickly about this point. So the meat of this show is other professionals that us as financial advisors use to become, better at what we do, more successful. So I'm putting this whole category into sort of coaches, coaches for everything, personal development, really. I sort of bang on about the three healths: mental health, physical health, financial health. They're all sort of important, but they're all sort of interlinked. So we obviously have accountants that help us. I mean, over the years, I've used personal trainers, business coaches, public speaking coaches. I've had remote mentors, people I listen to online. There's financial advisors courses that we've gone to. We've got a lot of education and training around investment management and practice management. So yeah, it's just opening up to you guys, really, who's been some of the most influential people that have helped you along the way. What coaches do you still employ today? What coaches have you employed over the years? Yeah. So
well, let's kick off with if that's okay with you, Carl. We'll kick off with Alan, and then we'll go to Carl. I mean, Alan, it might be quick if you tell us the coaches you haven't used.
Yeah, I'm all about improvement, Nick. You should try it sometime.
No, I tried it once, mate. I had
it was the worst 5 minutes of your life.
Absolutely.
The coach was wrong.
The coach had to go for therapy, and I thought, well, this is not a good world.
You're right. Over the years, I have, because I do believe I am always looking to try to improve, be a bit better. I don't have any immediate. I saw you raise this, Andy. I thought, well, I don't have any sort of. I've used this particular coach, and he or she was amazing. I've used a series of different people at different times. My view is on coaching is that it should never be a kind of perpetual thing. You should have an issue that you want to get better at, work with somebody for a period of time, and then perhaps step away from it. And then do some of the stuff yourself. But over the years, one of the things I think that a coach does, and there's a lot of similarities with a good financial planner, is this thing called accountability. And you talk about health. You can obviously tell by my wonderful physique that I'm a regular visitor to the gym. But I do go to the gym.
Baker Street's cheapest gym.
Almost. But one of the reasons I wrote a blog about this a while ago, and my personal trainer, Andrew, shout out to Andrew from South Africa. I said, I pay you to count to 10. That's what I pay. And he said, well, I'll do much more than that. And I thought, well, of course he does. But and I was there this morning at 6:30 on a Monday morning, which is not the place I'd rather be in my life. But because he sets up this facility for me, and he's there and he's waiting, and I got to hold my backside out of bed at that time. So I think accountability is a huge thing that coaches perform. A lot of us, I think, just human nature is quite lazy, and we wouldn't necessarily do things unless we had somebody or something to do. And I think there's a lot that the work that a good financial planner does. Let's face it, some of it is just very, very basic, and in theory you can do it yourself. To keep fit, all you need to do is, eat less or eat healthy and move more. That's it. But most of us don't do enough of that. Same with financial planning. All you need to is, invest, automate your savings, low cost, have a plan. There are a few basics really, and you're sort of 80-90% of the way, but most people don't. So financial planner is a good accountability partner. Other than that, no, there's nothing that really stands out to me in particular. Coaches, I've spoken to a number over the years. They've all been good at different times, both on a personal basis and a professional basis. And I definitely have a lot of value in seeking an independent third party, because you simply, what's the thing? You can't see the label of the jar that you're inside of, that you're living in. So having someone else give a unique view of where you are, what you're doing, and what you might want to consider doing to get better is very, very valuable. I'm going to pass it to Carl, because I know he's got a far better answer probably, because he's spent a fortune on coaches over the years. Carl.
Yes, I have, but I promise you, not as much as you have. The whole accountability thing. I love Mitch Anthony's quote on that. It's accountability is holding your feet to the fire of your best intentions. I think that's just brilliant. It's exactly what it is. Yeah, I actually wrote a blog on this pretty recently about kind of the outsourced inspiration that I've employed both personally and into Metas as well. So I have a couple that I'll just kind of run through. I think our client advisory panel has been absolutely amazing for us. So this is kind of, I suppose, specific to business and our business and how we run our business. So it's a bunch of our best clients, and we get together maybe twice a year. We do maybe 2 presentations. So I'll kind of give them an update as to where the business is at. We give them quite confidential information in terms of finances and all that kind of stuff. And then we'll do some other presentation. So maybe one of the team will present as to what they're doing. And then we just open the floor to kind of, I have, kind of some basic questions. What are we doing well? What should we continue to do? What are we not doing well? What should we definitely stop? And if we have specific items coming up on our kind of short to medium term strategy, we'll just run those by them and they'll tell us if they're a good idea or a bad idea. And it's not an echo chamber. So there have been times where they went, that's a terrible idea, ditch that. And like, who best, who could be better to tell us exactly what we should be doing in terms of our, strategic, short and medium term strategic goals than our best clients. So that's worked really, really well. A couple of years ago, back 2018, I think, one of our best clients, Tom Tierney, I asked him to become chairman. Tom was not in our industry, was involved in a couple of very successful businesses. And Tom has come in and acted as our chairman since then. And I suppose the role has evolved in that I wanted to make sure the Metas was, acting like a proper firm as opposed to flying by the seat of our pants, which maybe we were a little bit. And Tom has come in and made sure that our corporate governance is much better. 2019, we put together a proper board. We do proper board meetings, all that kind of stuff. But more than that, Tom has acted as a mentor, and I run an awful lot of ideas. There's never a week goes by that I'm not on the phone 2 or 3 times to Tom, and we can have robust discussions as well. So that's worked really, really well. And if you can find someone who knows the business and has been there, done that, I think that's absolutely brilliant. We brought in a consultant, Tommy Geary of Chinko Consulting, and that was more around, putting together a high-performing team. And Tommy has done great work in terms of, I suppose, asking the team exactly what they want, and then we delivered on it. And there's no point in bringing in these consultants or coaches if you're not going to actually deliver on, the recommendations and that kind of stuff. So highly, highly recommend that. And Tommy's work with us is ongoing, as indeed Tom Tierney's is. And I absolutely value and respect their opinions. And I think that's absolutely crucial. Both those guys as well have been there, done that. And that's really, really important. I've mentioned a couple of times the Munster High Performance Leadership course. So from a personal development point of view, that totally transformed how I approach leadership. I won't go into it again. The Metas team, I suppose, as the team has evolved, and if I do believe and respect that I have high performers with me, they inspire me. And sometimes I'm a passenger in the Metas team, and that's totally okay too. So I would say I've had an awful lot of inspiration from there. And then, guys, we call it the in our WhatsApp group, the Six Nations. But like, I do see that hopefully I've added some value myself, but certainly I've got tremendous, for those listening on podcast, both Alan and Nick are shaking their head that I have not. Indeed, that's okay. Maybe someday I will. But look, I've said it before, 98 out of 100 messages in our WhatsApp group have been, about nothing really. Filth.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever to be disclosed. But But yeah, look, there are some absolutely magical ideas out of this, and certainly stuff that I have put in place out of this. So if you can find a bunch of your peers who are going through, roughly similar types of scenarios and issues in their business, I think that's absolute gold. If you can, know and trust people. So yeah, that's me.
Okay, thank you, Alan and Carl. That's great. Andy, coming back to you, can you identify one external person to you who has helped you to become the successful IFA that you are today?
Still on that journey. I think we underestimate how much stuff we've consumed over the years. We're talking about coaching, but forget that. It's just general personal development. So us as individuals, then as businesses. I think Carl hit on the point. It's other financial advisors I've probably learned the most from, and it's not in a sort of structured way. It's just sometimes a throwaway comment or a chat at a conference and one or two ideas. I think it's fantastic that as our careers as financial advisors, we're almost paid to become better and better. I say to my clients sometimes, I read all the books so you don't have to. We're constantly reading marketing books, constantly reading business books, constantly reading investment books, constantly listening to podcasts, constantly listening to YouTubes, constantly going to conferences, constantly have social occasions. So, I mean, it's a wider subject of personal development. I mean, I've massively been impacted by a coach in the US called Nick Murray. Again, I've gone out to see his conference twice in New York. I've consumed his newsletter for 7 or 8 years. I've just consumed as much information as I can from him. Read all of his books. I'm hugely influenced by Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, Jack Bogle, the sort of heavyweights of this mighty profession. And then I've dabbled in a load of other sort of courses and individuals closer to home. I think we underestimate how much we have consumed. Now, I even put marketing in that as well. We've all employed marketing companies and consultants over the years. They come into our business. They tell us good ideas. They explain things to us. So, I think we've spent a lot of time, effort, and energy on personal development and using various different people. Even yourself, Alan. Obviously, you work with business consultants when you're expanding your business, buying other businesses. So, I'm grouping everything into that. Just everyone that helps us on this journey.
You've got such a wide topic here, and I'm just reflecting on it because there's different needs and requirements. So one is one of the reasons I think that we all even starting this podcast is because we're all quite curious. That's why apart from all the kind of the so-called barroom chat, which is all funny and a good laugh, there is a common thread between all of us, which is we're all into personal development. We want to grow personally. We want to grow professionally. We want to get better. So we're all consuming stuff. We read, we listen to podcasts, and we discuss it. Just offline and everything ourselves, and we've all and you're right, Carl. I was joking. You've added a load. You continue to add loads and loads of ideas and inspiration to this group. Look at him. He's frozen in shock by the positive feedback.
Dodgy internet.
So there's that. So there's learning, and I'm not really sure. Well, yeah, you do get it from so-called consultants, but I think there's better ways to consume. I don't need to sit in front of a person and tell me. I mean, there is just no shortage of stuff. So we all consume things in different ways. But I come back to this accountability thing, and probably the gentlemen in Carl's life, from a professional viewpoint, they are holding his feet to the fire of his potential or whatever it was he said. But so there's an accountability role, and I think that's the biggest thing of all that I have referred to before. That's we can learn all the things in the world, but what are you going to do about it once you've got this knowledge all in your head? What
behavior are you going to change? Yeah.
This is the challenge that I've got even going to conferences. You come away with conferences with 27 different ideas and think about, I'm overwhelmed, don't know what to do. I'm going to not do anything.
Yeah, do none.
If I can come away with one idea and somebody holds me accountable to say, you said that was a great idea. What specifically are you going to do in your business or your personal life in order to execute and take action? So I think there's a wide range of places to learn.
Carl, your hand was raised, Carl.
Yeah, just to say, look, absolutely valid on all fronts there, and Andy's point about continually learning and being curious and all that kind of stuff. I think that's actually probably the most important thing, isn't it? That to always try and learn more and do things better. And like at our lunch the other day, I had long conversations with 3 different individuals. And I can tell you, I definitely learned an awful lot out of each of those conversations. I doubt any of the 3 people learned much out of me, right? But maybe someday I'll be able to give back. But like that's informal. It's in a social setting. But by God, I really got some absolute gold out of that. So
If only you could remember it.
Yeah, no, I can. Don't worry, I was in bed long before you boys. But anyway,
you and the sushi in bed.
So now, Nick,
moving on.
Have we any new words for this week, Nick? Anyway, yeah, no, look. So I think don't only be trying to engage formally in terms of paying for consultants and all that kind of stuff. Just be curious. And just be that sponge and just go and talk to people. And look, we've said it before, haven't we? People are nice. People like to help. So, as long as you give off the vibe that, look, I'd like to learn from you. I respect you and your views. Well, then I think you're going to get absolute gold out of those conversations.
We raised at a previous episode the idea of mastermind groups. If you're not in one, get in one. If one doesn't exist locally, create one, because there is not another profession that I'm aware of where people openly share their very best ideas with no expectation of anything back.
Yeah,
it's
brilliant. I definitely. Yeah, I think that's just maybe just tying a bow on this as time moves through. And I've said this before, and Andy's definitely alluded to this, but I do think the best help I've had in becoming the still not fully formed person you see in front of you today is from my peers, and that's as Carl just said, those 3 people he spoke to who later on had to be revived, but at the time seemed to be enjoying themselves. You'll take much more out of those conversations than I think you would do typically.
Is it okay to just name check those people, because I do really appreciate it, and it was Justin King, Rob Stevenson, and David Ferguson. So guys, look, thank you for your time, and I really enjoyed it, and I've taken stuff away that's positively impacted me. So thank you.
Yeah, and all legends in their own lunchtime. But the thing that is in common with them and with you and with us, and this is the big difference about consultants and all the other things, is that they have been in the arena, if they aren't already. And the names that you mentioned are, and all of us are. We are, to quote that famous speech, we are all in the arena. We're getting covered in blood and mud and shit and everything else, and we're fighting a good fight. With all due respect, some of the consultants, the job of a consultant is to go around and tell other people what to do without necessarily having the same level of scars as the rest of us have. So when you are having a conversation with someone and you've got a particular issue or challenge you're faced with, and you speak to a fellow advisor or business owner, and they say, "Oh, we had that 3 years ago. This is what we did, or this is what we got wrong." I'd be happy to share all the things that we screwed up on. That's where you learn the most, is from those who've really had the battle scars to prove it through the experience.
And there is quite a few good consultants out there, but a lot of them go into IFA firms, early on in their career. They learn a load of good stuff from one firm, and then they repackage it and issue it to firm B like it's their original idea. Some of the best ideas that consultants get have come from other financial advisors, is what I'm getting at.
There are no original ideas. We're just repackaging all the time.
Okay. Are we happy with giving that a damn good thrashing?
We didn't have story time with Alan Smith.
No, we didn't have story time with Alan Smith. Well spotted. I'm being judicious with it, but now you've mentioned it, people are going to think about it. So again, we won't have it the next episode either. Right, Alan Smith, your business planning process for 2023 and beyond. This might be the chance to do it.
Finger poised, Nicholas.
Grab yourself a drink, a very long drink. It's story time with Alan Smith.
Now, this is going to sound increasingly contrived, and I say it every week, but we don't have to have that jingle on. But I do want to give a little bit of background to this. Cast your minds back, ladies and gentlemen, listeners, to when COVID hit and lockdown came. It was March 2020, right? some of you will know, I live in London, in central London, and I knew the direction of travel. I knew what we're going to be faced with, which was a complete and utter lockdown. You weren't allowed to leave your house. Remember those days? You allowed out once a day for exercise or some such nonsense. And I thought, I don't fancy being locked down here. So I packed up my other half, my children, threw them in the car, and went off down to the south coast. I rented a cottage, which was available through a friend of mine, and I locked myself up there for months and months and months. And in many ways, I know it was a very, very difficult time for people and for the country, but it was quite a good time for me. The weather was good, and I had all of a sudden, I had time and space to think. And I used to take myself for a walk on the beach every single morning, and I would begin to formulate, because by that time I'd been in business for 15, 16 years, and we'd achieved a degree of success. But I'd never had much of a chance in those days to, just to pause for breath and reflect and decide what the next chapter was going to look like. Stop laughing, Lincoln.
I'm waiting for you to pause for breath, but crack on, my good friend.
So
he's breathing through his ears.
The idea of business planning properly came in, because I'd never really built much of a proper thought through business plan up until then. It was, to quote Mr. Widger, flying by the seat of our pants and making it up as we go along. So that was a kind of a COVID dividend, if I may say. It's just the time and the space to think, go for long reflective walks and kind of think about what the next chapter was going to look like for the business. And as a result of that, when we rolled around into towards the end of 2020 and then beginning of 2021, I got together with the team. I can't even remember now whether we did it remotely or not, because we were in and out of lockdowns at the time. But I built a 5-year plan at the time, and it was documented what we're going to do, what good looked like, very, very specific. So it was designed to be, this is what the business will look and feel and experience like by December 2025, which was going to be 5 full calendar years by the time we'd launched the whole thing. Fundamentally, it was a growth story. I refer back to some of the conversations we've had before, lifestyle business versus kind of scaled or growing or larger practices. And I thought I'd spend so much time building the foundations of this business that to carry on and sort of tick along without focusing on growth would seem like a missed opportunity. So I documented a range of ways that we were going to achieve it, but we were all about fundamentally doubling in size and then maybe doubling again over a period of time. And I mapped it all out, shared it with the team, and it was great. It was a very sort of energetic response from the team, and everyone could see benefits in growing as a business. It was going to be very impactful for our clients. We know the good work that we do for our clients, so why do we not want to do it for more? And we know that larger a business is, the more opportunities there are for those working within the business. So it was well documented, and I mean, believe me, it's as who's it? I think Andy said, I heard say before, man plans and God laughs, because I tell you, the plan we made, we have not followed that to the letter. We have sort of, gone left, gone right, but we're still broadly on track and on target for our growth story. So I'm thinking, as we're heading towards the end of the year, I'm raising it as an issue and wondering what other people do, if anything, around business plans, business objectives, documentation, how you achieve what you're trying to achieve within your businesses. The specifics that we do is we've adopted, historically, years ago, we adopted broadly what's called the traction model, but from a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. But we've kind of pivoted it slightly, and we embrace a concept that comes out of Silicon Valley called objectives and key results. Happy to discuss that in more detail. I don't know if, Carl, if you've come across that, but it is a very specific way that you can achieve your objectives within a business. It's all well and good saying we're going to double in size, we're going to do this and that, this, that, or the other. But I mean, this comes back to accountability and doing what you say you're going to do, because without specific actions documented with accountability and specific people charged with doing these actions, then nothing probably will happen. So we've embraced this concept pretty well over the last couple of years. And as we're coming into the end of this year, we're planning what we're going to do Q1 next year. That's exactly what we did. I've got a meeting in the next couple of days to just get into the weeds, this very, very specific activities of what the company will do and the specific names of the people, what they will do in order to ensure that we're still on track towards our sort of grander plans and objectives. So, Carl, as we are heading towards the end of the year, looking into next year, what are your thoughts? What are your actions? What have you been doing on sort of business planning?
Yeah, we do something similar, Alan. The first thing I'd say is I know you did a lot of planning when you were down on the coast and stuff, but I think you're being hard on yourself, because I always learned loads from you in terms of how you were planning the next phase of your business. So I do think you were doing some, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. A book that I read, I was introduced to this book by someone I know, like, and respect, which always helps. Cameron Harold, Vivid Vision. So in terms of building a firm, very short book, absolutely brilliant. I would highly recommend everybody get on that. So we're in the middle of the planning at the moment. I think I mentioned it before. We're doing our budgets and all that kind of stuff. So I have the aforementioned Tom Tierney's our chairman. He's a chartered accountant, and our head of finance is Paddy O'Halloran. He's also a chartered accountant. So they crunch the numbers. We do some budgets and all of that kind of stuff. And it's work that has to be done. But I then share those plans with the team in January. I didn't before. Last January was the first time I did that. And everybody said, wow, this is fantastic. This is brilliant. Because like you're saying, Alan, I think if you can give the team, if you want high performers to stay with you, you got to show them what is the vision, what is the strategy, what is the plan. So last year was a bit of a revelation. Should have done it way earlier. I didn't, but anyway, we're definitely doing it again this year. And then I suppose the other thing, not to harp on too much, but I've done a playbook, and I've asked of all of our private client managers, our financial advisors, basically, as you'd know them, to do an annual plan. So that keeps us in the short term on track, because if I can keep the 1 year plans on track, that will feed into our kind of 5-year plan. And we do have a 5-year plan as well. And the private client managers, their annual plan needs to be inspired by the Metis playbook. And I suppose what I'm trying to do is to make sure that you don't have to do everything that's in the Metis playbook, but I want you to do this plan. They have to have it done by next week. That's for 2023. It's stuff that we do in Metis. So you're picking, whatever it might be in terms of that's how you're going to grow your book of business. It keeps everybody accountable. We kind of break those plans out every quarter then and review them. This is what you said you do. How are you doing it? And we can identify issues then. So maybe a particular route that you're pursuing isn't working for you. But I do think, like you, Alan, I'm much more focused on putting plans in place, and then that we seem to be mentioning it a lot, that accountability piece. So making sure that we're all accountable to each other. And yeah, look, I could go on. It's a big subject, a big topic, but I think planning ahead is absolutely, it's a must, isn't it? Really.
Any thoughts, gentlemen? Other two solopreneurs?
Yeah, I could talk about this for a little bit. I'm quite into high-level number crunching, so I keep a grasp of pretty much all the numbers in the 3 different businesses that I run. In terms of, so 10 years ago, I used to have quite a lot of goals written out because I had a lot of stuff to achieve. So it's like short stuff I want to do, medium stuff I want to do, and long-term stuff I want to do. At the moment, it's just growing the 3 different businesses that I run. So I track everything at the end of the year, really. Calendar years, I also do tax years. And then I sort of scope out what the turnover is going to be and what the sort of income I can generate from it if I'm looking at that. The big focus for me is growing humans under management. Maven Advisors sort of ticking along. We're taking on new clients, and we all know the stresses and strains of running a regulated firm, especially as a solo advisor. My big focus on next year is growing humans under management, the premium subscription. That's growing pretty aggressively at the moment, so hopefully we're going to hit some good numbers at the end of next year. But I'm also busy with training because Voyant has got a big change to go to the new system. That's my sort of thoughts on it. But I crunch
free advertising there. I think the Trap podcast, which is will be sponsored by Maven Advisor, Maven Premium or whatever it's called. Look forward to your check, Andrew.
Exactly.
Any thoughts, Nick?
Well, not really. I can't add anything to it, so I'll be brief. I had a plan when I started in 2008, and I worked back the income I needed to give me the lifestyle. I've talked about this before. I worked the income I needed to give me the lifestyle I want now and my future self lifestyle. So what income do I need and what pension contribution do I need to make? And I worked back from that, the turnover I needed. Okay, and if I need that turnover, how many clients can I service, and how many? Having had that number, I then knew what fees I needed to charge to generate the turnover. The net of corporation tax and expenses would give me the income, and that was really my business plan. And so, but you know what? I'm not. My business. It sounds like I don't do any work at all, and that's not true. My business though does tick over, and as long as I don't goof up, I keep on doing well by people, I will be done well by my business. So. There are always regulatory. I think it's more regulatory things for me that change, like consumer duty. Yeah. That kind of forces me to change, even if I don't agree with it. That will force me to change things and change the way my business is kind of modelled. But that aside, no, I don't do any business planning. I use an online accountancy package, Free Agent. Other people will use Xero. I know at any moment of the day and night what my balance sheet is, what my profit and loss is. I was talking to a client the other day who's a friend, and he's in IT recruitment, and he doesn't know what his profit is until his accountant gives him back his books about 6 months after the end of his business year.
That's very common.
Yeah, absolutely. But with my OCD trait, that would drive me up the bleeding wall, because I like to be on top of it all the time. Is that a business plan? No, it's not. But I always know my numbers. I do compare my metrics year on year. Are the expenses broadly coming in where I thought? Is turnover broadly where it should be? I don't just let it ride. I do have reflection and analysis, but I'm my biggest critic. I've got this high internal locus of control. I'm very inner directed, and I know if I've let myself down, because I'm nearly always letting myself down in one form or another. But I do hold myself to account. I don't need a third party. I'm probably hypercritical. So that's where I am on the planning process.
And
I am conscious.
Nick, can I just ask you on that? Like, if your clients are getting older, say, right, and you have there's natural fall off, like, do you always try and replace those clients, or do you let that just organically happen, or how do you deal with
it's organically? Image-wise, if you imagine and this sounds cruel, but I'm using this metaphor so people can see it. But if you imagine a conveyor belt going along, and clients at the end of their lives will drop off the conveyor belt, and they fall out of your life as fee-paying people. Okay, they're human beings, but as fee-paying people, they fall out of your life. And at the other end of the conveyor belt, you have younger people coming on board, and some years you'll have more people dropping off the end. You'll have more people coming on. I don't have a vigorous client recruitment policy. I work by referral only, so I do take on some children of clients, some grandchildren of clients. I get referrals from an accountant, and it kind of washes through, Carl, but it just happens organically. It's not me going out and, I used to do the networking and everything else, and I am taking clients on, but I am very choosy, and clients are very choosy with me. The vetting process, we are vetting the prospects. They think they're vetting us. We are vetting them, and a lot of them don't get through the process. So I take clients on, but selectively. But yeah, you lose clients. One day I might just be that I've got 3 clients left because the rest of them have died, and I shut up shop years ago, and I walk away because my business is, I've got my pots stacked up for the rest of my life. That we talked about that as well. I'm not planning on selling my business.
That's not Andy's plan. Andy's plan is that you'll give up in a few years, and he'll take it all on. But anyway.
Yeah, but I've got to find someone I trust and like, and this is where this whole thing always breaks down, isn't it? We made this joke last time. Listen, guys, we're 48 minutes in. I think that we've had two meat and potato subjects there that we went into at quite some depth. So I think, if that's okay with you, we'll just we will transition to answering readers' questions posted to us mainly on Twitter, and the first one is from Ben F as in Foxtrot, who hasn't left the Twitter handle, so he might not be on Twitter. So going forward, what I'm asking people to do, if they're not on Twitter, is to leave a LinkedIn profile. So at least we can put that in the show notes. People either will have a Twitter or a LinkedIn profile. Anyway, Ben F says, and I'll maybe deal with this and then you guys can chip in, but can you talk about how you manage sequencing risk in retirement? Absolute return, structured products, and smoothing funds have all held up well in the current drops.
Bullshit.
But I understand you prefer not to use these. Can you talk about how you deal with this risk for those approaching retirement? Love the show, Bear. Well, and I maybe I'm talking for you. Please step in, guys, if I'm stepping over you. I don't have a different policy for accumulation and decumulation. Clients accumulate in equities and they decumulate in equities. There is this thing called sequencing risk where you're buggered if the markets collapse in the first couple of years and you're drawing money out of your pot. So I would say the retirement approach is you go nearly all equities, the great companies of the world, and you have a reserve bucket of maybe 2 years living expenses, allowing for state pension, rental income, any DB stuff you've got coming in. And at the minute, I would say, this is not advice, by the way, to anyone listening, husband and wife, 50k in premium bonds, there's 100k, there's your liquidity for the temporary declines.
Yep.
Hopefully you never need to touch it anyway. If you're very unlucky and you're the 1 in 4 people who enter retirement just as the markets are going down, then there's your pot. So we're not selling into that falling market. But Ben, that's what I would, and everything else is noise. And again, there's a whole swathe of consultancies out there who will tell you need to have a separate policy, and you need to have these smoothing products, and we've got these hybrid annuities now where you can cash out.
Yeah.
No. They're doing that because they make a turn on it. Just keep it simple, stupid. That's my answer to Ben. Anyone else?
100% agree.
I agree. The only thing I would add, which just strengthens what you just said, Nick, is Ben's reference to things like Pru's smoothing fund and blah blah blah, absolute return funds and so on. But they're not doing anything. That's just a reporting mechanism. Underneath it, they're still invested in equities and bonds and other things. There's just some. I put something out last week, which is quite popular, about if you look at market returns. If you look at a graph where you've got a daily, equities are posted, bad prices posted daily, and just look at the performance of a fund, let's say, global equities. If you look at it daily, looked at it monthly, or looked at it yearly, and this is the point. So that's effectively what Pru and others effectively do. They smooth it out because they don't actually give you it's not, to use the vernacular, it's not marked to market. They just tell you the price is X, but God forbid you actually want to get your money out during a period when there's a huge market tension and stress. You won't be able to. The funds get locked up, etc. So this really is this is the actual art of financial planning, isn't it? This is where you add value. If the answer was I'll buy a bunch of these absolute return funds and smooth with profit type funds, and if they actually worked, then you wouldn't need us. But they don't.
Well, I had a look at Pru. I'm not knocking your brand here. But I had a look at Pru's with profit asset allocation the other day, and I think it was their growth one. I think it's like 55% in equities, which intuitively tells me that 45% is not in equities. And that's just not, for me, that's not going to hack it over a 3-decade retirement. I don't care whether you put a smoothing gate at the front of that or not. It's not going to generate a sufficient return from the way I see the world going forward. So
a high quality, thoughtful relationship with an experienced financial planner, looking at the person in the round, looking at national savings, looking at guaranteed income like state benefits and I don't know, property, retirement income. There could be a whole range of different things that you put together like a jigsaw puzzle to identify, where's your income going to come from, what's absolutely essential income. I mean, God forbid, even in extreme market times, you might have to fly business class and not first class.
Exactly. But have adult conversations with your client. Treat them as you would wish to be treated, right? Just tell them the truth. Okay. Thank you. So the next question from our Twitter followers is a chap called GP Mantini. Now, he's not a GP, he's not a doctor, he's Gianpaolo. He's of Italian descent, but we don't hold that against him. He's on Twitter as @GP_Mantini. And Gianpaolo says, and we have kind of touched on this in a big way earlier on, so maybe quickly on this one, I'm not going to answer, one of you three can. What's been the most valuable or influential course seminar for your respective careers? Is it still available?
I'll just be very quick on that. For me, it's Nick Murray in number 1 position, Nick Murray in number 2 position, Nick Murray in number 3 position. Nick Murray from me.
What course does Nick Murray do? Does Nick Murray do a course?
He does his behavioural investment seminar once a year in October, I believe, does a monthly newsletter of 8 pages of pure gold, has got 4 of the greatest financial planning books ever written. Yeah, he's been more influential in my life and business than anyone else combined. So, yeah, that's for me. Over to you, Carl.
Okay, Carl.
Boring, because I'm going to repeat something. The Munster High Performance Leadership course.
Okay, Alan.
All right, I'm going to say something that I don't think I've said before, which I think is relevant and interesting, which is...
Can't be a fresh story.
No, it's not a fresh story, but it's a course I went on a couple of years ago, and it was an in-person course. I believe it's still going, which is the Daniel Priestley Dent Key Person of Influence program. That was a series of meetings. You get together with, my time, it was 80 or 90 business owners, and you go through this process. And, Daniel has got this whole thing mapped out, the sort of 5 Ps about how to become a key person of influence. And I think that this course and this program and the book and the whole kind of online thing that supports it is highly relevant to most financial planners where we are today. Every one of us, and every listener, should they wish to be. And it feeds the answers to some of the other questions that get raised as well, as how do I generate more opportunities? How do I win more business? Well, if you went through that program and you followed what Daniel and his colleagues share with you, I'm pretty confident you'll be able to attract more clients, more customers, and grow your business. So it's not a financial services one, but I think it's highly relevant to all financial services practitioners. So Key Person of Influence by a company called Dent, D-E-N-T.
Excellent.
Question, if you don't mind, Alan, you said that to me before, and I had a look into it. I think they've moved the course to online now. So just a quick question, and it might help the listeners. Was a lot of the learning you got out of that? I know you were going to kind of in-person events for that over a period of a year, was it, or something like that? Would you say that the learning you got from it would have been less if you weren't meeting other entrepreneurs, other people in the same boat as you?
Yes, is the short answer. Of course, all conferences, all meetings you go to, we've talked about it before, around the coffee machine, around in the bar afterwards, or whatever. There's a lot more, and I really benefited. There was one or two other financial services people there, but unlike other things I've gone to, that's the other thing I haven't mentioned. Strategic Coach, Dan Sullivan's Strategic Coach, which I spent 3 years on, which is also very good. But there was lots of other financial planners on that, so you weren't necessarily getting a sort of diversity of thoughts. But this Key Person of Influence, I think I was one of maybe 2 financial services people. So all sorts of different business people. And of course, they just had similar issues and challenges that I had as a business person, first and foremost, which obviously I don't think you're getting to the same level. I think we were the last one to go on with an in-person one. But you probably are, if you do it online, you probably are getting all, you're getting the information, the data, the reporting, the templates, the tools that they give you. You're just missing that on that social. But I think that they arrange some social events as well, just to complement it. Not
still worth doing as far as you're concerned. Yeah,
I would say so. Yeah, I would say it's definitely worth investigating.
As an introduction, the book is amazing. It's timeless. KPI. Yeah,
I think what I would say on that as well, I read that book, I don't know, when it first came out years and years ago, and it was one of these, it was all right, quite interesting. It shows you there's a time that things resonate more. Because I read it again, a couple of years ago before I went on the program. And I thought, wow, this is exactly what I need to learn right now. So I think you can read a book at different times of your life, and it doesn't resonate.
Yeah.
Right book, wrong time.
Okay. Yep.
That's my suggestion to Mr. Mentini.
Thank you, Alan. Right, so moving on, guys. I think we should we maybe get on to Culture Corner because we're at 57 minutes. And Rob Stevenson and a video, Carl, that you'd like to tell the Trappists about.
Yeah, so this came from my conversation with Rob last week. So he pointed me to a video that he had posted on Twitter. So we'd put it in the show notes. It's called Succession Powered Scale. So it is a question that a lot of financial planning firms are asking, how is my business valued? And I think we've even been asked it from some of the Trappists in terms of questions coming in. So a really good video that Rob posted, well worth watching in terms of how businesses are valued. And look, doesn't this actually prove the point? If you're willing to try and learn and be curious, there's so much stuff out there. It's all out there for free, right? Yeah. His expertise in a 50-minute video or something like that for free. Go and watch it. Brilliant for everybody.
Excellent stuff. Thank you. Alan, you've got OpenAI, artificial intelligence, many applications for financial planners. Do expand.
Yeah, I'm talking about for free. Artificial intelligence. We've all heard this phrase bandied around for years. I haven't really noticed much in the way, does Siri work every time? Does Hey Alexa and all the rest of it? I'm scared of saying things aloud in case music turns on or something right now live on the podcast. But I came across this quite recently. Again, put the show notes. There's a company called OpenAI, and they've got this chat bot thing called Chat GPT. It is amazing. Now, if I was right now, a copywriter or someone creating written content, but there's a whole lot of extra applications, go to this. It's free. Say into it. I just did, for example, write a 500-word essay on the meaning of true wealth, for example, which is something which is kind of dear to me, part of our strap line that we work on as well. And it just within seconds, it wrote a thing. Now, was it perfect? No, but I'm telling you, it was 80% good enough. A bit of tweaking, and you can post that stuff out. And I thought, God, that would take hours to create anything close to that. And I've seen some other examples. I mean, somebody in the US just said, "Can you do a sale purchase agreement, legal contract?" And it goes, and I'm in, New York State or something. So it understands that, law. I mean, I don't know. The applications, the more I think about it for financial planners, it's both an opportunity and potentially a threat in some cases as well. So check it out.
Is this free, Alan?
It's free. You can have so many you can do so many for free, and then you've got to start paying for it. But I didn't get, I think you could do 20 or more of these example for free. Ultimately, it is a paid for service. Some of the examples that I've seen online, I mean, you didn't think anything was ever going to challenge Google. This is a better version of Google. If you said, can you write a piece of code for me to put a new thing on my website? It produces the code there and then for you to copy and paste into your web program. It is insane. It's one of these moments, as you go through life, there's been some sort of moments of the deep breath. Bloody hell, this may be the start of something completely new, completely different. So you heard it here first, folks. Well worth exploring. The link is in the show notes.
Lovely, great stuff. Thank you. And the All In podcast this week, they had an example of that actually, where Jason Calacanis set up a script with all four of them, and just gave the AI the background, and then they came up with a script for, and all four of them were in character. It's cleverly done in the style of Quentin Tarantino, without the swearing. Andy, the UK tax app.
Yeah, that's it. That's the recommendation. It's called UK Tax App. I've tried a few of these over the years. I think it's really decent. It's really good because it allows you to put multiple incomes if you get various dividends, various salaries, various self-employed profits, and it breaks it down per year, per month, for weekly, and it's got a whole pie chart of total tax paid, how much you get per week, per month, per everything. It's really, really good if you're doing any sort of personal income planning for those who are predominantly self-employed out there. So it's called UK Tax App.
Okay, that sounds interesting. I look forward to seeing the link to it in the show notes. We didn't get a chance to discuss the autumn budget.
An inspiring way to finish.
What is quite clear from the autumn budget is that many, many people are going to need to do tax returns with the reductions in the dividend allowance and the savings interest rates going up and the capital gains tax. That's going to be the complete shitstorm for many, many people who don't know what's coming down the line.
Oh, you think that's going to be the outcome of that, Nick?
Pardon?
You think that's going to be you think that's going to be the
it's
outcome?
going to. It's a lot more people getting caught up. It will be the. They absolutely have to. Absolutely, yeah. My one is so The Godfather, fantastic film, and The Godfather 2 is one of those rare examples where a sequel is at least as good as the first film.
Better, yeah.
I read the book for the first time this week, and I raced through it. It's 500 pages. It's a bit of a cliche, but The Godfather by Mario Puzo, Puzo. Just a really, really good bit of fiction. Maybe because I love the film so much as well, I could sort of visualize the characters. But it was I enjoyed. I raced through it. 500 pages, got through it very quickly. Okay, that's the culture corner done. So, dear Trappists, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to have a special. Episode 9 will be a Christmas special devoted just to answering your questions. Our sack is bulging with your questions, so we're going to have a really good stab to get through maybe 10 to 15 of them. We haven't ignored you. You're in the hopper. You're in the hopper of doom, and we'll be pulling you out and going through it in the next episode. So looking forward to doing that. But in the meantime, what if you've got an idle moment? What are you going to do? Of course, you're going to leave a 6 out of 5 star review on iTunes. You're going to go onto YouTube and like and subscribe us so we can then flog you with relentless advertising, which keeps this going or not going, as the case may be. Gentlemen, have we got anything else to say? Are we done?
Thank God.
That's it for now.
Okay. All right, guys. Love you loads. Take care and see you in 2 weeks' time.
See you later. Bye.
See you later.